good day once again to ye mateys. I be your mercurial and hungry DM, Josh the Pirate, and I'm here for another homebrew session. I'm going to continue working on my Battletech RPG system, which we are tentatively calling Battletech 5e. Now, I'm just going to check the volume. Tech 5e. Now, I'm just going to check the volume.
Your eligible city credit card. You could be covered with.
Now, I'm just going to check the volume. Sounds alright. Okay, good. Blasted thing. Right. I'll turn the music back on again. There we go. Boom. Okay. So, yes. Hey, Ardana. A little high compared to your voice, but not much. Thank you. How are you, my dear? Good to see you. Yes, I thought I'd do a bit of homebrewing for a couple of hours and then go and raid AJ because Winter's Tales is premiering their new season, their new show, their new game, their new system, I believe, this evening. Yeah, if anyone can hear howling, there may well be a storm outside. It is, as my family used to say, blowing a hoolie. It is absolutely nuts out there. Ooh, hype. Yeah, absolutely, I know, right? I'm excited to see what they have done, streaming from a studio live in WA, which is, you know, unusual here. But it's trying to take flight. Oh, absolutely, our back garden is... Each time I go out there, I'm like, and how is it different today? Whee! Yeah, that'll be fun. Cool. So... back into it. Before I go further, I should explain who the heck I am. I be Josh the Pirate. You can find me here on my channel Corsair's Cove, where I run D&D, do D&D related things, and generally play RPGs, because I'm a nerd. You can also find me in the podcast There Be Dragons, where I play the infamous and deadly pirate Scan Felspar and his little dragon, Rush. As in short for Rush Valur. Excellent Scandi sea monster. Yes, anything else I need to talk about? Ukraine? We could talk about Ukraine. Having a bit of a shit time. If you have any spare pennies, please consider... You're a nerd, I've been misled. This is, yes, unfortunately true, my love. What is it? 13 years now we've been together, and you're finding out... I didn't want you to find out this way. I thought you were cool. Well, yes, the Ukrainian people are having a bit of a shit time right now. If you do have any spare pennies, consider chucking them at the emergency action appeal. They will get the money to the best place possible that they can, which is pretty groovy. The link is in chat and will be also in the YouTube description. Speaking of which, we have the YouTube. We have the Discord. If I could spell. Quad. And we have the socials. And I am actually starting to post shit on them. And when I say post, I mean share. Come join us in our Discord. Yep. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. All of those things. And nerds are cool, though. Absolutely. I agree, Joe. Right. Yes. Thank goodness for that. I was worried for a moment. Most of my, like... It's actually kind of nice to know that... That yes, nerds actually are quite cool. Like, my students think I'm pretty cool. And, you know, that's the nerdiest thing a teacher can possibly say. But, like, yeah, I happen to know for a fact, because I've seen the chat, that they talk about how cool I am. One of the mums in the group sent me a screenshot of the chat going like, "Isn't Mr. Josh so cool?" I'm like, 5 points to Gryffindor. Right. So, we should probably get into some homebrewing. Now, what I want to talk about, I have a thing I want to do before I actually start talking about Battletech. I want to just quickly come up with a new thing. See, I've had a little piece of notepaper on my desk for a while now, with a single word written on it. And I need to action it. I don't need to find the piece of paper. I remember what it says. It says inkling. And I want to homebrew what an inkling is. Because I have it in my head that it is a tiny slime. And yeah, so I want to do that. That's the first thing I want to homebrew today. I want to make up a new monster. In fact, this is the wrong music for making up a new monster. How about D&D Mad Mage battle music? Ooh, a bit exciting. There we go. All right. So let's find us some rules too, because the way I do homebrewing is I normally start when I'm building a new monster. I normally start with an existing one. So let's say an ooze. Ooze rules. That's just a Merriam-Webster definition of it. Ooze 5e. Stats. Grey ooze. There you go. That'll do. Oozes thrive in the dark. Unwitting servants. Grey ooze. Variant. Here we are. Boom. Corrode metal. Grey ooze. Right. Copy paste. Boom. And we will cut a bunch of that out, no doubt. Sorry. The formatting hates me. Have you seen the alley from Minecraft 1.19? I think something like that. But an ooze would be pretty cool. I have no idea what that is. Consider yourself speaking to somebody who has never played Minecraft before, because I have not. I already have far too many things that I know I would just lose myself in, so I decided not to get involved in another. Nothing against people who play Minecraft. I'm like, nah, man, that's cool. I wish I had the time for it. As Yahtzee Croshaw once said, it's the model railway for the modern age. And I already have enough hobbies. Ah. Ugh, doesn't fit. There you go. Right. So, changing its name, Inkling. It is a tiny ooze. It's going to be very, very little. Tiny ooze. Unaligned. Yes, armor class 8. I think I want to crank the... We'll work out armor class in a little minute. It would be damage resistance, cold, acid, and fire. Sure. I suppose first I should probably figure out what the heck it is. Alright, here we go. I have a link from Ardana. Oh, this thing. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Like a little angel thing. An alley. Oh, is that like... as I understand it, there are ghosts that attack you? That sort of thing? In my head canon, in what I am thinking of for it, is that it is an ooze that shapeshifts into things it reads. Friendly version of that, and it collects things for you. Oh, okay. Like an ally. Yeah, alright. Yeah. I'm with you. So, yeah. It is, in my head canon, yeah, it can turn itself into anything. And in fact, I think it does turn itself into anything. It's not a particularly bright creature, and it turns itself into anything that it reads, or sees a picture of. It forms that shape. And it's not necessarily aggressive. And I would say people keep them as pets in some places, probably in the Underdark. Or as, yeah, and they're taught to, they can be trained to do tricks and form themselves into useful shapes. When not turned into the thing, they are black. And they look like just a puddle of ink. And then you show them something written with ink, and they go, woo, bling, and turn into that. So, I would say it's not very strong at all. like strength 4. Very weak. Let us say it is a minus 3. Dex. I would give it quite good dex. I would say like a good for a slime, so let's say a 10. Con, very high. Yeah, 16 sounds legit. Intelligence 1. Again, it's... I'm going to make it a bit smarter than that. I reckon 4. Smarter than your average slime. Again, negative 3. Wisdom, very high. 10. Very high. And I think they're charming little creatures. I reckon it's quite a charismatic little boy. I'm going to say 12. I'm going to say charisma is his best stat. +1. Except con. And I think it could be very, very stealthy. I think it would be very good at hiding in places. In fact, I'm going to say it's got a +8 in stealth. Yeah, boy. It's immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened, exhausted, prone, or frightened. It has blind sight to 60 feet, blind beyond that radius. Passive perception will... I'm going to crank that up. Passive P would be 10. I'm going to make it high. I'm going to make it 12. Challenge rating. Very low. It would be 1/4. No, 1/8. It's 25 XP. Not that you probably even fight it. And it wouldn't have very many hit points either. Does it have a skill where it is impossible to tell from an object if it's not moving? Yeah, that would be basically where it is. It's false appearance. While the ooze remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from an oily pool or a wet rock. From a puddle of ink or oil. Shapeshift. I reckon it can corrode metal. I don't have any problem with that. Any non-magical weapon made of metal that hits the ooze corrodes. After dealing damage, the weapon takes a permanent and cumulative -1 penalty to damage rolls. Wow. Non-magical ammunition made of metal that hits the ooze is destroyed after dealing damage. The ooze can eat through 2 inches thick of non-magical metal in 1 round. I think we toned this down a little bit. It is not a dangerous thing. The amorphous thing, definitely we can leave. I reckon it's cumulative, but not permanent. The weapon is rendered blunt. As part of a long rest. As part of a long rest, the time may be spent sharpening and repairing the damage to the weapon. Unable to damage. There you go. So yeah, if its penalty drops to -5, the weapon is rendered completely blunt and unable to cause damage. As part of a long rest, time may be spent sharpening and repairing the damage to the weapon. Non-magical ammunition made of metal that hits the ooze is destroyed after dealing damage. I don't have a problem with that. And the ooze can eat through a 2-inch thick non-magical metal in a round. I'm going to say in 2 rounds. It's because it's a little baby one. False appearance. And it's so... Okay, you're doing that thing again where you're too big. Why are you doing that? Why you do this to me? Why you be this way? No, stop it! Ugh. Itches so much. I need a new mouse. It's being very difficult and irritating. There we go. Alright. Pseudopod. Yeah, I would say it's so negative. It's a bit like it's a +1 to hit. Would it be? With a -3, it would be actually a -1 to hit. It's not a dangerous creature at all. Reach 5 feet, yes. And it does 1d6 -3. So, quite easily does no damage. Just blah. Plus 1d4 acid damage. If the target is wearing non-magical metal armor, its armor is partially corroded and takes permanent and cumulative -1 penalty to the AC it offers. The armor is destroyed if the penalty reduces its AC to 10. Ooh. Given that they just don't see this happening, yes. Oh, because it's made of ink. Would a crit leave a tattoo-like mark? Ooh, I like that. I do. Yes. Yeah. How to word that? I also want it to... unlike most slimes, it can write. Because it's all about writing. But yeah. Hits... critical hit from this creature leaves a... Tattoos are technically not made with ink, but... Well, yeah, no, but I really do kind of like that, though. It's more like... It's because it's more like magical ink, and it's just stuck to your skin. It's a minor curse, like lesser restoration to get rid of it. But, yeah, that you have to do something magical to get rid of it. Otherwise, you just, like... You walk through a cave covered in these things, and you come out of them with just loads of... Like, looks like you've just been in a fight with an inkwell. It leaves a random word. Random word in common of the DM's choice on the character's skin, which cannot be removed without the use of a which can only be removed by a curse removal spell, such as lesser restoration or remove curse. It seems like an awful lot of effort to go to like for remove curse, but lesser restoration is relatively easy. If it was a funny word, I probably wouldn't mind. It's just like, oh, what happened? Oh, I got in a fight with an inkling. What's that? It's a tiny, tiny ooze, and it reached out and just bitch slapped me, and it wrote whore on my cheek. I want to turn down the takes a cumulative. We're going to do the same thing as we did with the weapons. Takes a cumulative -1 penalty to the AC. This can be repaired as part of a long rest provided appropriate tools are available. There you go. That's the thing we need to have, and we won't have the destroy the armor thing. It just permanently reduces your AC until you fix it. What else do we need to change? The hit points seem a little high. Let's say 6 hit points. 1d6 plus 3. Walking through a room filled with those would make you look like you fell asleep at a child's birthday party. Yeah, or, you know, you have a particularly, like, you could say, oh, it's like, oh, it draws a rude symbol on you or something instead. Yeah, like, DM's discretion. If you've got a particularly mean one, or if you've, maybe it writes a word on you that it heard in the last minute, so if someone swore, it could write that on you. A word that it heard in the last minute of the DM's choice on the character's skin, which can only be, yeah. A critical hit from this creature leaves a word that that the ooze heard within, let's try and word it the way wizards would, heard within the last minute of the DM's choice on the character's skin, which can only be removed by a curse removal spell such as Lesser Restoration or Remove Curse. Yes, there we go. The other action it can do is Shapeshift. There we go. My mouse is being so irritating. The Inkling is capable. Spelling is hard. Don't laugh at me, I'm dyslexic. You like the sound of my inkling? I can't remember who said it in front of me, but I was just like, "Ooh, that's a cool idea!" And then because it was a thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's neat," and I was like, "That's not what I'm imagining," and I like what I'm imagining, so I'm going to make it. Of assuming the form of anything written that it can see. Written or drawn in ink that it can see. For example, a table, though a very small one. Yeah, maybe a better example would be, I don't know, for example, a figurine of a cat. that was described on a scroll. The inkling is capable of assuming the form of anything written down or drawn in ink that it can see. For example, a figurine of a cat that was described in a scroll that sits on the table next to the inkling. The inkling cannot increase its mass and can only make... cannot increase or decrease its mass and can only take the shape of the item, not the proposed size, though it will get as close as it can. I also want to do one other thing with it. I want to give it the ability to, it must be able to read. So I want to say, I want to give it a language. I want to make an order of scribes wizard with an inkling as a fake tattoo. Oh, the awakened spellbook is mischievous and shows the inkling embarrassing writing or images for just to mess with the wizard. Yes, exactly. Yes, I was literally just thinking these would actually be a really handy little what's the word? Familiar. Can't see, but has tremor sense. I mean, that's handy. Or blind sight. It has blind sight. But that's still useful. Any. I think it can speak any language. Can read any language. You can read any language. But cannot write or speak. You, astute player, writing wild-ass descriptions of things to make it change form. Exactly. Absolutely. It'd also be kind of handy. You're like, oh no, I'm stuck in a prison cell. I just take this tattoo off. There we go. Can read and understand any language but cannot write or speak. Yeah. It has to be able to, so it can take forms. So you can use it as a rudimentary translation device if you hold it up to a particular word and say, turn into that, and it can't. But it goes through and you get pictograms of various things. It's dead language. And understand. A valid point. Understand any language but cannot write or speak. And it is an ooze, so talk with beasts, like speak with animals, doesn't work on it. You would have to burn a fairly high level spell to be able to like talk with it and ask it what it says. You might as well just cast comprehend languages, you know? But a roundabout and fun way of interpreting a dead language. If you don't know comprehend languages. I like that. That's neat. I think it's funny. Its armor class would be 10. because its dex is 10. I kind of actually want to make it a bit nippier. I want to make it 15 feet and climbing speed of 15 feet. And it's super good at stealth. Or if it is in an appropriate form, whatever it has turned into. I think it should be able to change color as well. And maybe we put that in abilities. Just got an image of the Inkling reading about a text about Xanthar and turning into the tiniest beholder ever. Or a goldfish. But I love the... because it couldn't float. So it'd just be a beholder sitting on the floor. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah. There's so many ways that this could be a cool idea, isn't it? Inkling can change color. At will. I'm gonna remove that. No! I want you to go away. Delete it. I can get rid of one more thing. Oh, hang on, I know how to get rid of one more thing. Tap, tap, that. Tap, 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 that. There we go. Inkling! There we go. Fits on a page. Yeah, you being super weird. Hold up. My mouse is double and triple clicking a lot, and I don't know why. I think it's on its way out. Cool. Alrighty. That was fun. Do we think there's anything else we need to add to our Inkling? Change the wording in it. Inkling can move through a space as narrow as an inch wide without squeezing. Oh, even more narrow than that. An inch is not big at all. An inch is like big. Yeah, that's pretty worse. Yeah, I'll leave it because there's no real reason not to. Oh, for heaven's sake. There we go. Mini beholder sounds cute for some reason. I think, well, you've seen a mini beholder because I painted one. And yeah, I think it would be cute. They are pretty cute. I mean, as long as it's not animate. I also think, yeah, it can maneuver. It can be, so if it sees a picture of a cat, it can turn into a tiny cat. Would you like my spare mouse? I may well. I'm pretty sure I've got a spare lying around somewhere. But yes, I might well because, yes, you heard the cursing earlier, my love. Cool. Alrighty. Well, that's fun. I would say possibly neutral, chaotic neutral. But I don't think we need to do anything like that. Acid, cold, fire. I'm going to make it resistant to most magical damage. I'm going to say lightning. And thunder. Oh, no. Because it maneuvers by hearing. So I'm going to leave thunder off. Acid, cold, fire, like poison. I might even say it's immune to acid. Because it is. It's acidic. But necrotic and radiant would be fine. Yeah. Let me say bold. Immunities. Acid. Acid. Cool. I think it's neat. I think it's really neat. I like it. Alright, well, we will save that little boy. And who knows, they may come up. Inkling. Pop him in my D&D drive. Homebrew monster. Save. There we go. And I shall pop that up on the Discord as well. Just for fun. Just for funsies. So, next thing I want to figure out. Let's change our music up. Music techno play, perhaps? Perhaps music techno plays? Alright, yeah, next thing I want to look at is heat mechanics for... Right, over to Battletech now. And how we deal with that. We worked out armor points and damage points and things like that from the weaponry and from the resistance to it on our practice chassis. Hey, Dragon at Rest, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. You just missed a bit of, well, we're still homebrewing, but you missed us. We homebrewed a new monster for D&D that I'm calling the Inkling. It is a tiny ooze that turns into anything it can read. So this is quite a smart ooze. It can read stuff. It cannot speak. But it can read and understand any language, and if it sees something that it's like, I want to, like it reads a description of, say, an ornamental cat, it turns itself into an ornamental cat. And I envisage these things would be kept as pets. And just a neat little, someone said Inkling around me and as an idea, as a thing that would be a monster, and I was like, that's neat. And Ardana suggested a really cool other mechanic that I like. If they hit you, I'm actually going to remove the critical element from it, Ardana, you know? I think it might just be a hit from this creature leaves a word on the ooze, leaves a word that the ooze heard within the last minute of the DM's choice on the character's skin that can only be removed by a curse removal spell. So if it gets angry with you, it just covers you in words. So any hit. I mean, bear in mind that it's a -1 to hit. It is super weak. So it's not going to be hitting you a lot. But yeah, if it does manage to hit you, you get a rude word on it. I think that's really funny. Maybe not a rude word, but if you're being slapped by a tiny ooze, and this is a tiny ooze, you might be going, fuck! It's like, fuck, 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 right on your head. That'd be great. Yeah, I thought it was neat. We used the grey ooze as a base and then just modded it, which is my standard. This is the thing, so I'm self-taught. As a DM, as most DMs are. I mean, who gets taught to DM? But you know, you play with a few DMs, you pick up what you think works, and you pick up what other people works for them, and then. But in terms of actually like how to approach homebrewing hey, Nelderberry, good to see you. I am very well, mate. Good to see you. Yeah, like everybody sort of finds their own way to all these things. Who teaches people? Where do you learn to homebrew? You don't. You just do it until you figure out what works for you, and you balance stuff as you go, and yeah, so this is obviously I'm self-taught, but my method for homebrewing a lot of stuff is find a basic monster that already exists, and then change it to what you want it to be. So that's what we did with the Inkling, which is the thing we just created, Nelderberry. We made up a new monster. It was just something I'd had in my head that I wanted to do for a while, and I wanted to get it down onto a piece of paper. So yeah, the Inkling is a little ooze that can read any language, but it can't speak. Yeah. I use the same method homebrewing. Yeah, cool. Good to know. I'd be interested if anybody out there does something different. Like, sometimes, if it's something completely out of the can, you can start from scratch, but even then, I normally start with just something. The closest thing I can find, even if it's nothing like it. And go and have a look at a couple of other things, other bits and pieces. Even when I'm doing classes and stuff like that, use something else as a base and tweak it. Because there are so many classes, so many races, so many monsters out there that there's almost always something. Even if it's just some other homebrew that somebody else has already done. It's almost impossible to have a brand new idea. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. But yeah, the Inkling, it can read any language and then turn itself into what it reads. Admittedly, it's tiny, so it can't become a very big thing. So if it reads the word table, it becomes a doll's house table. But it can change its color, so it can be a wooden table, or it can make itself out of PVC, or whatever it wanted to. But it would only be looks like that. And yeah, the writing rude words on people that attack it, that's fun. What if it reads fish? Well, then it turns itself into a fish. I would say, however, that it doesn't become aquatic. So it would turn itself into a thing that it doesn't... I imagine it's like, I turn myself into this. This sucks as a form. I'm going to turn myself back into a puddle. This is much more useful. I'd really like to introduce Basil Beryllium to one. I mean, yeah. Questions like that, Dragon at Rest, that's for the DM to figure out, which will probably be me. But I will put this up on our Discord probably in the Hung, Drawn, and Quartered, and anybody who is interested is welcome to utilize it. I am not precious about my creations, and also other people helped. So yeah, we will save that file, and we will go over to Battletech now. So, more Battletech, because there's a lot about it that is, for those of you who don't know the Battletech world, the Battletech universe, Battletech is set about 1,000 years in the future. It's set in the real life meat space universe, and it tracks the full 1,000 years of lore. All of the books have 1,000 years worth of lore. There are 6 independent eras in which you can run games and battles. That's it. I'm all in for more Battletech. Yeah, me too, Nelderberry. Yeah, there is an awful lot of it, and interestingly, in that lore, mechs only came along around Hey, Salt and Buttery! The maths is just about to begin, my friend. I'm going to be playing a fairy battlesmith artificer in a game soon-ish, and he is a steel defender flavored as an aardvark. That is a lot to unpack. I love it. The aardvark would be significantly larger than the fairy, presumably. Battlesmith artificer. Battlesmith is the best artificer? Yes, wow, exactly. Right. Mechs only appeared in the Battletech universe in the late 2450s. And it was this 100-ton monstrosity called the Mackie, and it was crap. As the first thing of any type would always be. But yeah, it was absolutely shocking, and then they started refining it, and despite the fact that it was crap, everybody wanted them. There are still a few exist. Aardvark is a medium-sized, fairies are small, so by a raw, my artificer can ride it as a mount. Absolutely, yeah, it's one size class larger. Yeah, cool. I love that. That's a great idea. Aardvark mount. You and your silly mounts. Karma Chameleon. Why was I saying that? I don't think there was any particular reason. But yeah, so the thing I want to look at today is the heat mechanic. And try and figure out what to do with that. We've got the weapons. We now need to figure out how much heat they all do, and how we track that, and how we have it affect the mech. Because I think we've done a fairly good job of balancing the damage per round of the weapons. So the heat mechanic in the video games is often used to limit the amount of times a weapon can fire per round. or how many weapons you can fire per round. And we could do something similar to that, or we could do something much more simple, like you can fire, say, each mech has its own number of sort of weapon systems that you can fire per round without overheating, and adding X amount of heat sinks allows you to increase that. Yeah, balance looked good last week unless you played around. No, I haven't touched it. So I think, yeah, the damage is good. So I think the way I kind of want to go is have each mech is a basic level of you can fire this many weapon systems without overheating. However, if you want to run the risk of overheating, you can roll a reactor dice and fire all of your weapons. But if you roll your reactor dice and roll a 1, I think that might be a good way to go, because that... Oh, yes. Okay, so we keep the reactor dice mechanic from Mecha Hack because I like it. I think it's good. Yeah, Meltdown, exactly. And different mechs have different reactor dice. So some mechs are better at dealing with heat than others. Things like the Inferno rounds force an immediate reactor roll. So a potential downgrading of the reactor's ability to just sink heat and function. So if you smack somebody good with a few Inferno rounds and they get unlucky, you can disable them, but they have to get unlucky. And the better their reactor is running, the better chance they have of resisting being damaged by the Inferno round. Because that could make Inferno rounds ludicrously dangerous. I also want ammo cook-off. So you would store ammo in presumably the safest place, but if that is destroyed, then the ammo cooks off and you burn. That's added a ton of extra math. Yep. So, because most mechs don't carry loads of weapon systems. You have to get pretty big before you're talking about more than 4 weapon systems on any mech. Like a Centurion, for example, carries a long-range missile 10, an AC 10, normally, as standard, and then a pair of medium lasers. That's 4, but you're not going to be firing your medium lasers and your LRMs at the same target. Because medium lasers just don't have the range to hit the stuff that an LRM can hit. So if you're firing a medium lasers, you're not going to be firing your LRMs. The AC-10 has a much more varied range. So that one, you're going to have to take a trade-off. Or if you're going to fire both your lasers and your AC-10, then you run the risk of going overheating. But also the AC-10 has the recoil, which means you have to balance that. It's the sort of thing of once you get your head around it, it's actually quite a simple equation. But if you want to, you can give everybody both barrels and overclock your reactor a bit, which would also come into a piloting skill that allows you to, once per long rest, say, ignore an overcharge ignore a bad roll on a reactor dice. Because I don't think it's too much more math. The Mecha Hack system was quite simple. So, let us write heat. Heat. Each mech has a base level of function. Let the heat math begin. This was always going to be the complicated thing, Salt and Buttery. have this on in the background. Is this MechWarrior you're talking about? It is. The system, the universe of MechWarrior is called the Battletech universe. Yes, Battletech is the name of the brand. MechWarrior is just one of the things in it, yes. MechWarrior, there is also Mech Commander. They don't make that anymore. It now has become Battletech, the video game, which is on Steam and is excellent. I just finished MechWarrior 5. The campaign is a bit grindy at times, but it's almost it's top-heavy, would be my argument, would be my issue with it. Well, now I'm distracted from work. I feel like the heat would be critical mechanic for balancing alpha strikes. Exactly. Nelderberry, yeah. The trick with the campaign was, obviously you want to be pushing your players towards getting the best mechs. The problem is, there's only like 300-ton mechs in the game, and deploying for the final like third of the missions, the final third of the story, deploying anything less than a 100-ton mech is just asking for trouble. I think the trick is the game is inherently limited, and you can only deploy 4 mechs total tops. You can deploy less if you want. If you've got a certain drop tonnage, if you've got say 200 tons to drop, you can deploy 200-ton mechs, or you can deploy 4 50-ton mechs. I would strongly endorse that, because 4 50-ton mechs definitely carry more weapons than a pair of 100-ton mechs. However, I did do a mission intended for 145 tons with a single 100-ton Atlas, and it just breezed through it. There's an achievement for doing a particular kind of mission without firing a shot. I did it with an Atlas at a mission aimed for a bunch of light mechs. So you're supposed to deploy a lance of lights and mediums. I just got in an Atlas and just ignored everybody, and just slowly stomped around crushing buildings, and then left, because the mission was blow that up, blow that up, blow that up, and then bugger off. And I'm like, alright, bye everyone. They didn't even manage to strip the armor off any one location, but an Atlas is all about heavy armor. But my point is, you run out of variation at the end of the game, and you're just sitting there with... I had 12 mechs, which is the most you're allowed, and half of them were Atlases. Just because it was the most common and really the best 100-ton assault mech. The Godzilla achievement. Yeah, pretty much. And it felt really cool. It was like, ignoring you, bugger off. A couple of times mechs came out and they were like, because you don't have to not fire a shot, you're just not allowed to kill anybody. I'm like, doesn't say anything about shooting the legs off light mechs. So you've got these little, like, 25-tonners running around me being irritating. I just blow the legs off one of them, and it starts limping along behind me. I'm like, you're no threat to me anymore. You can't even keep up. Yeah, that was fun. It was a good mission. So what was I talking about? Each mech has a base level of function. Possibly, if you're standing still, you're allowed to fire it extra. So, you have a certain number of actions that you can do per turn. A certain number of actions you can do per turn without exceeding its heat tolerances. They would all obviously have a maximum speed, which would vary depending on the mech and its weight, but not necessarily in a perfectly linear manner. The urban mech, for example, only weighs 30 tons and is slower than an assault mech, but it does carry an awfully big gun. The urban mech is a 30-ton mech that carries an AC-20. It's stupid. It doesn't always carry it as well. There's a particular variant, the urban mech R60. Or it might be the R60 XT or something. It's a very specific variant, and got to mount an AC-20 and a small laser. You're like, why did you even bother with the small laser? And, that's it, and it doesn't have jump jets anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to take the jump jets off an urban mech, therefore making it even slower and more useless. But when it hits you, it's a real pig, and they're very tough little things. And they've got a really tiny target profile. They're just a trash can on legs. So, it can do per turn without exceeding its heat tolerances. This would be roughly equivalent as standard to moving at its max speed and firing 2 weapon systems. Yeah, obviously I wanted all of that to be caps locked. Thanks very much for that. What did I even write? Be rough equivalent to moving at its max speed and firing 2 weapon systems. No one takes my jump jets. You and you alone. I find them very difficult to utilize. Nifty for getting up to a good vantage point, but I much prefer to stand and fire. Possibly we have bigger weapons generate more heat, therefore, like you can, requires 2 action points worth of heat management to fire, say, that's it! I remembered, we forgot one of my favorite guns in the game, the PPC. The particle projection cannon. Oi! And they're hard to make, but not rare. So I think they should be included as standard. And if a large laser does 8 damage, then a PPC would do 10. I want to say. Oh. Yeah. Let's put them in lasers. PPCs do 10 damage. Do 10 damage. Yeah, exactly, Sultan Battery. Why are you caps locked? Do 10 damage. I think I need to restart my computer. It's just not happy. Largest range would be 420 feet. I don't think I want the PPC to be any bigger, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think it's got a better range, unless you're talking about an extended range PPC, which would obviously be better range. So, is 420, and it weighs 7 tons. PPCs weigh 7 tons. But they do a bunch of damage. It's yelling at you to restart, literally. Yeah. Yeah, it's here's the thing. I restarted it like a week ago, and it wasn't saying anything about needing to update. I'm like, okay, well, I restart you anyway. Oh no, because I went away for a weekend, so it got turned off for 4 days. I turn it on, and it says, I need to update. I'm like, motherfucker, you didn't when I turned you off. Weighs 7 tons. Range is 420. The other thing with the PPC is targets hit by a PPC receive a -1 targeting penalty, because PPCs fry your electronics very briefly. For a turn. Till the end of their next turn. Turn. Turn around. There you go. PPCs do 10 damage, range is 420 feet. Anything else I need to put about them? 120 feet. There we go. PPCs. Alright. Yes, nice. Thank you. Good. Roughly equivalent to moving at its max speed and firing 2 weapon systems. Adding additional heat sinks. I would say 1 heatsink gets you an extra weapon system, gets you an extra action. Otherwise, there's no point in having 2 heatsinks. This would change slightly. Well, because most mechs come with heatsinks as standard, and you're never going to strip a heatsink off a mech. Adding additional heatsinks, so removing weaponry or removing armor, and putting on additional heatsinks or finding better heatsinks that weigh less, like a double heatsink weighs the same, takes up 3 times the amount of space, but generates twice the cooling, gives you more weight to play with, therefore you can add either more additional heatsinks or other weapons. Now I imagine the Inkling reading about mechs. Oh! Ardana, you saucy person, you. I remember in MechWarrior 3 and 4 the heat was a number in thousands. I'm guessing you're not going in that direction. No, again, wanting to keep the math simple-ish, as simple as possible. Adding additional heatsinks adds additional action points. Some mechs come better able to manage heat as standard. Particularly ones with a heavy energy weapon load. For example, the Marauder, which is a 75-ton mech, and one of my all-time favorites, and one of most people's all-time favorites, actually, including a lot of pilots in canon. For example, Grayson Carlisle, the commander of the Grey Death Legion, he loves his Marauder. They have their primary weapon systems are a pair of PPCs, 1 in each arm, and then a pair of medium lasers in each arm as well. 1 in each arm as well. And then on their shoulder, they've got an AC, I want to say 5. Bit of a pop gun compared to the AC, to the PPCs, but it's a really good backup weapon system. But that thing turns up the heat. With a heavy energy weapon load. So the Centurion, for example, I would say it gets 3 movement, it gets 3 action points from its... The Marauders rock. Oh, they do. They're also quite an unusual design. One of my favorite in-game universe facts is that the Mad Cat, the reason it's called a Mad Cat is because when Innisphere pilots first saw them, their targeting systems didn't know what they were looking at. So they took a guess. Because its outline is somewhere between that of a catapult and a Marauder. The Marauder being shortened to MAD and the catapult being shortened to a CAT. It just went Marauder, catapult. So it went Mad Cat. We think it's a Mad Cat. We some sort of Marauder catapult thing. And it stuck. So that's why it's called a Mad Cat. Its actual designation by the clans who operate them is a Timberwolf, which is nowhere near as cool. It's mentioned second favorite mech, yeah, and another 75-tonner. An absolute beast of a heavy mech. And sort of mechanically in the tabletop game, you could buy 3 Marauders for a Mad Cat. But a Mad Cat is essentially a Marauder with 2 LRM-15s instead of the AC-10. That thing will fuck you up at any range. and better armor and better heat sinks. Fun fact, one of my players in my current Fresh Bread D&D campaign named his lost ship the Marauder after his time playing MechWarrior 2. Excellent. I have a favorite ship name that I utilize a lot in my own sort of like in my internal fantasy, the Zelbinian. And the reason I enjoy it's from, does anybody remember Farscape? It's an Aussie sci-fi made by Channel 9 here. It made in the, I want to say, late 90s. Yes. Woodenforge, hey buddy, I really like the Kodiak from the Ghost Bears Legacy. Ooh, now you're stretching me. Yes, I am aware of these. They're brutal, yeah. Poor old Ghost Bears, they got the shit kicked out of them. All turned out all right for them and Rassel Haig eventually. John Crichton remembers. Yes. Claudia Black as well. Bunch of peeps in that one. One of the actors in Farscape lived above my ex's pharmacy. Excellent. Who? I've only seen like 3 of them outside of Farscape, and 2 of them were in the same thing, and they were doing it was Stargate SG-1, and they did a crossover episode where they ripped off their own characters. But yeah, in it, there was a peacekeeper command carrier that was a very famous and terrifying ship called the Zelbinian, and the little puppet princeling, the aquatic princeling, what was his name? The little slug boy. Rigel, the little aquatic guy. Rigel was tortured on it, and it's a line of his. When they see it, it's this. They come across it, and it's been completely destroyed, and it's been torn apart. Yes, Rigel. And Rigel goes, "It's the Zelbinian," and I'm like, "Ooh, spine-tingly good name. That for a terrifying warship. Yes." I also love the Warspite, which was a British warship, and I had a model of it. I had an Airfix model of it when I was a kid. I honestly have no idea what happened to it. The Warspite was a cool vessel. Stone music? Let's have stone music instead, because apparently we've stopped. Why Sirenscape? Why does Sirenscape? How does Sirenscape? Often, not at all. Nelderberry Woodenforge, I imagine you're a little bit excited for this evening. For the launch of AJ's show. We will be raiding straight over there. Guys, if you want some amazing stuff, check out Wootenforge. We have our affiliate link up there in chat. Wootenforge.com/Corsairs Cove if you fancy some beautiful Australian handmade D&D accessories like this stuff. Connection timed out. I am not impressed with Sirenscape's performance this evening. It could be, in fairness, it could be the internet. But I'm streaming, and I haven't dropped a single frame yet.
That's because me watching the stream keeps dropping out.
Ah. Okay. My computer does tend to dominate the...
You'll pause, and then I'll start hearing you talking from the other room, and then it'll start again, and you'll be saying... I'm just like, ah!
Yeah. It's not so yeah, we have... I was the freeway signs above, the electronic signs above the freeway were being a warning, severe weather warning coming this week, and I was just like, wow, when they're telling you about it while you're driving 2 days before the event, I'm like, okay, noted. Guess I'll find something else to listen to then. Where's my pirate music? Recently added. What am I allowed? That one. Play that. We'll have that. Alright. If you like warships, I highly recommend checking out the ship named the HMS Dreadnought. It's a good name. Dreadnought. One. Royal Navy battleship. Design revolutionized naval power. Represented such an advance in naval technology that her name came to be associated with an entire generation of battleships. This is very loud. Why am I doing that? I should do it where I can hear it too, because I can't barely hear the voices in my head. There we go. Yes, yes, I'll kill the whores. The airport had a blackout today. Wow. Good. Good. Admiral Sir John Jackie Fisher, first Sea Lord of the Board of Admiralty, is credited as the father of the Dreadnought. Shortly after he assumed the office in 1904, he ordered the design studies for a battleship armed solely with 12-inch guns and a speed of 21 knots. That's fast. He convened the Committee of Designs to evaluate the alternative designs and assist the detailed... Wow. That's cool. Helped spark a naval arms race in navies all around the world, including the Imperial German Navy, which rushed to match it in the build-up to the First World War. So, this is one of the ships that helped start that. Great. A brutal, brutal war machine, yeah. Other favorite names, the Conqueror, because it was, this is super nerdy. It was Angron's battleship in 40k, and it had spears, like harpoons, that it would fire out, attached to really big chains, and it would just pull enemy ships toward it, so that Anchor could get in there with his axe, because nothing says more, drive me closer, I want to hit them with my axe, than Angron. David Franklin, who played... Oh, cool! Braca. I really enjoyed Scorpius' arc of how he started out as the baddie and then became good boy. Braca. Need to actor. What does he look like? Braca. Miklo Braca. Sabaton. Yes, Sabaton. Oh, him! Yes. The cheeky subordinate boy. Yeah. He was also in Matrix Reloaded. As who? He does look familiar, actually. He might have been one of the other ship captains. Sabaton has a lot of belters regarding World War One and Two. Yeah, what's Sabaton's? No Bullets Fly and Night Witches. Both enjoy those ones. Yes, you have found my filthy secret. I am a massive metal fan. Some of them leave me cold, I'll be honest, but as in some Sabaton songs leave me cold, but those ones are very good. Yes, Scorpius started as a bad guy and ended as a brain tumor. Spoiler alert. Yes, my first love when it comes to Sabaton was the song Wolfpack. I know this one. Yes. Alright, let's get back to homebrewing. Enough mucking around with old sci-fi, which I've still got all the DVDs of. Can I maybe Sirenscape? It's thinking about it. Alrighty, back to heat math. Yes, particularly ones with a heavy energy weapon load. So yeah, the way I envisage it is you can move your full speed and then fire 2 weapon systems. And if you want to fire more weapon systems... so now we need to talk about consequences. If a player chooses to take more actions, they must, after resolving those actions, they must roll on their reactor dice. A fail, well, a roll of 1 on the dice downgrades the reactor's performance. Sabatong song Runia is about the death march of the Carolinians, which passed over my dad's family home. Wow, cool. Death march of the Carolinians, awesome. So how many points does the reactor have? Well, so this is it. With the mecha hack, the reactor dice on most mechs starts at a D6 and then downgrades to a D4 once you fail the first time. But with a D6, you've only got a 1 in 6 chance of failure. And some mechs I envisage as having better reactors, and that is something you would be able to pay for to install a better reactor. Or upgrade your reactor you can instead, like, you can build more heat sinks into your reactor to improve it instead of giving you more action points. I like that. What do we think? Because you don't want too many failure states. I also think the reactors can recover if you don't do anything for a while. Okay, so over the individual mechs, give them their standard reactor values. Yeah, I'm totally prompting you. Totally prompting me? Yeah. So, for the Centurion, we say reactor is a D6. Because it's designed to operate with its base weapon loadout and not actually need to overclock its reactor too often. Dice downgrades the reactors of performance. A reactor... Yeah. There's ways to obviously, like, fix your reactor as well. Yeah. So, to the next lower dice value, a fail on a D4 causes the mech to shut down. And I would say it does damage to its central torso. Does 1d6 points of structure damage to its center torso. Is that too much? Could be a lot, could not be very much at all. And, you know, if you're burning this, your center torso's got 15 points of structure damage, unless you've already taken a lot of hits, in which case, you know, you're nearly dead anyway. It can just break the mech. I don't mind that. I think that's fair. Again, this would need to be this would need to be play tested to see if people just shut down all the freaking time. Adding additional heat sinks and If a player chooses to take... It's a good starting point, so much will become known after the first game. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. If a player chooses to take more actions, after resolving those actions, they must roll on their reacted dice. I probably should put a maximum number. Like, you can fire, say you can fire all of the weapon systems you want to fire by burning a by rolling a reactor dice. Because mechs like the Black Knight have, I want to say, 9 weapon systems. And firing all of them obviously... it also has a lot of heat sinks, so its ability to take actions would be quite high. All the weapons you want to fire sounds pretty epic. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, because you don't want to... If you're within 200 feet, you don't want to be firing your long-range missile launcher, because you'll probably miss. And you'll be wasting ammunition, and that extra heat probably unnecessary anyway. All the weapons, yeah. If a player wants to chooses to take more actions, such as because you can't move faster. Firing jump jets. Such as firing jump jets, or a full... How did you put it? Yeah. Or all available weapon systems. After resolving these actions, they must roll on their reactor dice. A roll of 1 on the dice downgrades the reactor's performance to the next lower dice value. A fail on a d4 causes the mech to shut down and does 1d6 points of structure damage to its center torso. So let us go up to Inferno rounds may be loaded into the tubes as some or all of the ammo stored. Inferno rounds don't do damage. They don't add heat. They cause... They force a roll of on the reactor dice for each missile hit. So an LR, yeah, nice simplification, and gives the players a dice to roll. Double win. Yes, I agree. Thank you. So like a full broadside with, or it might be a little too powerful with LRM-20s. If you fire an LRM-20 full of Inferno rounds, you make someone roll 20, and you nail them with it. You make them roll their reactor dice 20 times, but that should shut the mech down, right? And it doesn't hurt the mech. It just causes it to overheat. I don't hate that. I don't hate it. They've got to hit all those times. And LRM-20s, they scatter, adding +2 to the AC for each shot every 3. So, if, say, the base AC is 15, for an LRM-20 to hit with all of the missiles, you've got to get 15 for the first 3, 18 for the second 3, 21 for the third 3. That's only the first 9 missiles. 24 for the 12, 27 for the 15, 28, 30 rather for the 18. So 31 for all 20 hits, which is potentially doable for a very good pilot, but it's only adding +2 for the AC, but still. Yeah, it'd still be up in the 28 range to hit with all of them, if you can. I think that's actually fair, and, you know, you've got to be prepared to carry a lot of LRMs. No, we discussed this last week, isn't it? It's missile. Yeah. They force a roll on the reactor die for each missile hit. I would probably... I reckon that makes LRM-5s a lot more useful. One roll, and then each wave had a negative. Or it's a ton of dice. Oh, yeah, no, that's what I mean. So, yeah, you roll your dice, you roll to hit, and you... Say you rolled a 23, and you needed an AC... against the thing with an AC of 15... you would get everything that had an AC of less. So you would get the first 3, because that's 15, then you get the second 3, because that's 17, then you get the third 3, because that's 19, 21, 23. So you get the first 5 lots of 3, which would be 15. But you'd miss with the last 3. The last 5 missiles. Otherwise, yeah, as you say, it is a ton of dice. No, it's, yeah. It's all done off the one roll. Inferno rounds, I think that's cool. There is also flamers, but I don't wanna. Because if you can shut a mech down 3 times, you could potentially, if you could shut the Centurion down 3 times, just it keeps booting back up and then shutting back down again, you could burn out its center torso just by just shuts down, causes the mech to shut down. A shutdown mech, we need to figure out what a shutdown mech it can or cannot do. A shutdown mech. I think 15 rolls for the defender's reactor might get laggy. The example of a 23 roll. Yeah, but that's the value of carrying that particular ammunition. Maybe in the case of LRMs, it's 1 per 3. Much in the same way, it's 1 per. The thing increments up by 3 as well, every 3 missiles. So in the case of that particular example, it would be 5 points of heat. How about a turtle mode? The mech becomes protective shell for the pilot until the pilot has a chance to escape. Yeah, I think a mech can it needs to cool down for a turn and then reboot. Because a shutdown mech, it's not that the reactor just has to vent and cool off. But I think the player needs to take a con check if they're in a shutdown mech, because it's shut down because it's overheating. A shutdown mech cannot move or fire its weapons, cannot take any actions until the beginning of its until until the beginning of the turn after its next turn. Would streamline it, yeah. And still be a big event. Yeah, alright. For each missile hit, in the case of SRMs, or each 3 rounded up, in the case of LRMs. Yeah. The SRMs, that's brutal. But you're not firing as many missiles. 2, 4, and 6. You can nail him with both of the 2s. That's a pair of overheats. And hey, if it sucks on the first test, blame it on the annoying salt and buttery bloke. Exactly. I will. Note. Will do. Thanks, Sultan. I was thinking something like shutdown being like the prone condition, but opposite. Melee strikes and shots are at disadvantage, but lasers have an advantage. Yeah, well, you wouldn't be able to move, so you would be functionally prone because you wouldn't be able to evade any incoming fire. You can still shoot at a mech that's shut down. No reason why you can't. And it's a nice idea, Ardana, and if I was building something that was didn't already have its established cannon, I would definitely utilize it. But that isn't the case in Battletech. They don't go protecting. I have a potential critical fail in cannon. My day is complete. Maybe. Cannot take any actions until the beginning of because it'll probably be shutting down outside of its own turn. I think it has to have a whole turn off, cooling down. The turn after its next turn. It has to have a whole turn inactive. Maybe say I like Ardana's idea though. So why don't we say possibly that? I'm playing him. No, I'm not playing that. That's copyright. Where's my thing? I can hear the voices in my head and I don't like it. There we go. It has to have a whole turn inactive, essentially. I would say possibly it shuts down and it contracts a bit. All of its joints become less exposed, and therefore it increases its armor class a bit, maybe by 1. And it can no longer be damaged by heat-generating weapons. Because the mech's gone into expelling heat mode. It also feels like mean to kick someone when they're down. Even though it is a really good idea to shoot them while they're not moving. Because you wouldn't be able to evade, you're not able to increase your armor class by evading. No heat damage. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's say then, an inactive mech gains a +1 to its AC as the mech has deactivated and turtled. I will use Ardana's word. Protecting its joints and servos, nor can it take further heat damage from weapons like flamer, well, like inferno rounds, missiles, or flamers. It's mean to make somebody overheat if they're already overheating. It's basically just good sportsmanship. Yeah. A shutdown mech cannot take any actions until the beginning of the turn after its next turn, so it has to have a whole turn inactive. A player... This is... now I think there needs to be ways to repair your reactor in-game. If you are concerned about this happening, and you can find a good defensive position, I reckon you can voluntarily shut your mech down and regain a reactor dice. And you just basically deactivate, you perform a hard restart and vent your reactor. Vent your reactor coolant. Let's call it that. May take the action vent reactor coolant or recharge reactor. Yeah, I think vent reactor coolant, because you would carry spare coolant. May take the action vent reactor coolant. This uses all available actions for the turn, and they may not have already taken any. Player may take the action vent reactor, and it's like doing so repairs the reactor by 1 reactor dice up to the maximum of the chassis. Venting could cause heat damage to anything standing too close because of the intent. Woo, I like that. Yeah, that's a valid point as well, Sultan. So only 1 vent per combat. Yeah. Once per... Not combat, once per refit. Like, because some combats can be, like, multiple engagements within... Once per deployment. Deployment. There you are, that's the trick. Anything standing in the rear of the mech and within melee, 30 feet, must, any mech, standing in the rear of the mech and within 30 feet, rear arc of the mech and within 30 feet must make a roll of their own on their own reactor dice. Their own reactor, as this heat is expelled. Yeah. Finding extra coolant in a down salvageable mech would become the mech version of looting the bodies. Yeah, the pilot would have to get out to salvage it, but yes. extra coolant may be... This would be the way to do it. You may, like, coolant weighs half a ton, and you may carry more. Like, as standard, you may install an extra coolant to improve your... That's how we improve mech. Reactors over mech. That's how you improve your reactor. Essentially, you can, buy better coolant systems for your reactor, and that weighs the same as a heatsink. That weighs a ton. Yes. And extra coolant may be scavenged from downed mechs. So the pilot would have to get out to do this. No mech. I'm going to say no mech can carry 2 loads unless can carry 2 loads of coolant unless specifically stated in the build of the mech. I don't think there's any need to make can carry more coolant than it starts a deployment with. But you can upgrade your coolant systems to be able to perform the action more than once. So players could upgrade their coolant systems to be able to perform this action more than once. Yes. Yep, and you could have a boss mech custom made to do just that. Mech version of legendary actions. Boom! Yes. I'm gonna write that down as well. Yeah. Possible idea for boss mechs being able to do this multiple times or as part of a turn rather than all of one. Yeah. I like this. I think this is good. Upgrading. Shit just got real. Yeah. Reactor would be similar to installing extra heat sinks. Each upgrade weighs a ton and allows and improves the reactor dice by 1. Adding additional heat sinks for 1 ton a piece. Adds additional action points. Some mechs come better able to manage heat as standard, particularly ones with heavy energy weapon load. If a player chooses to take more actions, such as firing jump jets, all available weapon systems, after resolving these actions, they must roll on their reactor dice. A roll of 1 on the dice downgrades the reactor's performance to the next lower dice value. A fail on a d4 causes the mech to shut down and causes 1d6 points of structure damage to its center torso. A shutdown mech I also want to put down a point about pilots within mechs shut down by heat. Because they aren't playing as the mech, they are playing as the pilot of the mech. And I think we need to have a point about that. Because these things are shutting down because they are running too hot for the metal to work. And the electronics, so the person in the cockpit's probably going to be feeling it too. I think we need like a con check, a con save to not pass out. Pilots within mechs shut down by heat must pass a DC What should we make the DC for the con save? I want to say like 13? Because most people would only have a DC, it would only have a +2. And I want it to be like an actually genuine... I want to have 2 failure states. Let's say a DC 13, not 31, 13 con save. Taking a level of exhaustion on a fail. Rolls of under 6, however, cause the pilot to black out. Pass out. Partner just called and asked if I wanted to grab a late lunch with him, so I'm out. Have a great rest of your stream. Dana, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for hanging out. Have a nice day. Say hi to Canis for me. Rolled under 6, do we think? Cause the pilot to black out? To pass out briefly. You reckon 7, Sultan? Alright. This is basically a 1 in 4 chance. If you're saying the average con is a +2. Let's try it. I'll put it in for the that'd be more like exhaustion. Well, the thing is, I reckon you can recover from it fairly quickly. So it's not a binary failure state. Well, so I've got 2 different. If you roll under 13, you take a level of exhaustion, which stacks. And then rolls under... But if you roll under 7, you also pass out. Cause the player to pass out briefly, requiring a... I mean, if you're getting shut down, your mech's not doing anything anyway. Passing out feels like you straight fail. Yeah, no, I think the way I intended it, like requiring a functionally a death save. I would say a con save of 10 to wake back up on at the beginning of each subsequent round. A save of DC 10 at the beginning of each subsequent round to recover, to wake back up. So, potentially, you don't actually lose any time at all. So like Stunning Strike. Yeah. Say 5, or that's instant death. Yeah, I think, yeah. I'm going to leave it at 6. I think my instinct 6, because that's a 1 in 5, if you're saying an average of a +2. And you would probably be overheating on someone else, on not your turn. You would probably be shutting down because of overheating on someone else's turn, because if your reactor is at a D4, you aren't going to be overclocking it too often. It would be foolish of you. So, if you shut down and then you fail badly on your initial con save, you have a 50-50 chance, probably, of waking, at least a 50-50 chance, of waking back up before your mech wakes back up. So it's a bit like, yeah, it is quite like Stunning Strike, I reckon. I reckon this is what I mean about multiple failure states before it actually goes bad, but it's still, like, narratively interesting, and reinforces that there is a line between you and your mech. Is the trick. Will all drivers have proficiency in con saves? Well, no, this is the thing. Look, most classes don't. But who has a negative con? Like, you don't build a character with a negative con. So most people would have at least a +1 or a +2 for con, because you want that for your hit points. It's the one dump stat no one ever takes. I've had it as a dump stat once, and it sucked. Particularly as, like, I had 2 20s in my stat block and a 6 in con, and because it was a one-shot roulette that a Phoenix generated, and I was like, hey, can I trade that for Dex? That would be really irritating, but not as bad as having 18 hit points at level 9. I wasn't. It was level 6. I was a level 6 with 18 hit points. I was like, this is bullshit. The definition of a glass cannon. Definitely worth mentioning to players at the first test. Yeah, absolutely. Again, we'll try it out. I think this is, yeah, if you roll badly a few times, but also these are mech warriors that trained for it, so I'm envisaging them having decent con. And there would be a feat about being able to tough that out, which next week I want to get into the feats and the mech specific feat system, and everybody gets at least one as standard from, like, being a trained pilot. And also what skill abilities, what skill proficiencies I would have to add to it. I don't think very many. Because a lot of it's dex based, so it would be like, it's more like attack skills, and weapon skills. And I don't think I'd have to strip any out. Religion wouldn't be used very often, but it would still be there. Arcana would probably not. You'd probably swap that for mechanics, because Arcana just isn't a thing. And history, all of that stuff would kind of, like, anything that would be Arcana would be history. Or technology. Technology is what I'd call it. But we're not thinking about that. Because there's one more thing I want to do before we raid AJ, because she should be going live in a minute. And that is, I want to talk about... Why can I hear my voice again? Boom. I want to talk about heat maths. Yes, exactly. I reckon some weapons should generate more heat than others. PPCs, for example. I think you need to use 2 heat actions to fire a PPC. And possibly a large laser. Weapons, like, I think mechs that come with them as standard would be better at handling heat, because they would have to be. So you would almost have to, when you're building the mech, you would have to have how many heat sinks they all have. That would govern... I'm going to have to tweak this, I think. But, yeah, PPCs generate much heat. PPCs require, due to heat, to heat. PPCs require 2 actions to fire. I would also say LRM 20s do as well. Because there are a lot of literal fire coming out of your shoulder. Where did I put it? Yeah. LRM 20s require 2 actions to fire due to heat. To heat. I think that makes sense. We should also say something about if Inferno rounds explode. If the location housing the Inferno rounds is destroyed, the I also think possibly because they are potentially really dangerous, but you also don't want to encourage your players to be firing them all the time. We should probably limit the amount of Inferno rounds they can carry, because we're saying 1 ton of LRM ammo is 440 rounds. We should say a ton of Inferno rounds is like 120. Does that track? Doesn't really make any sense, does it? Because they'd still have to fit in the tubes. I'm fine leaving it with the same amounts. They still have to fit in the tubes, which means the missiles would have to be the same size. Doesn't make sense they take up more space or more weight because they're the same ammunition. They're supposed to be the same ammunition. But if the location housing the Inferno rounds is destroyed, the missiles cook off. Causing the player to only a bit less, but still. Yeah. No, they'd be less, logically. Okay. Only a bit less, but still. Why don't we... Hey, Tony, good to see you. We're about to pop off, Tony, actually. We're about to go and raid AJ, but I want to finish heat maths today, as Sultan is calling it. Let's say, then, that... We'll put it in the weight. Let's say a ton of Inferno ammo for LRMs contains, let's say 300 and let's say literally a third, literally 3/4, so 330 rounds. And what's the weight on a ton of LSRMs? 160, so 120 rounds. And SRMs is 120. Sound about right? So it's less, but it's not a lot less. Destroyed missiles to cook off, causing the player to... And this is why you don't want to have too many of them in case they get destroyed and you burn to death. Because causing the player to roll a reactor dice for say, every 10 that they haven't fired. I'm not envisaging people carrying more than 60. Because how many times you're going to be firing them? Most of the time you're going to be wanting to blow things up, not just cover things in chemical and make them overheat. It's not a very good way of killing people. I reckon the ability to take guns off an opposing mech is more important. And the risk of carrying them around is why, in canon, most people don't. But they're really good anti-mech weapons for infantry or vehicles. Yeah, great opening weapons. Yes, forcing an early loss of a reactor dies. Yes, agreed. Good point, Sultan. Yes. Yeah, cool. I think that's about all we need to say about heat for now. This obviously will require a lot of playtesting, but I think this is a good point. So I'm going to save, and we will go and raid AJ. Winter's Tales is launching their new campaign, their new story. There's probably going to be giveaways. She's got so many sponsors, so we will go and drop a raid on them, guys. So it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you this evening. My name's Josh the Pirate. You can find me here on my channel talking about D&D, but you've done that already. Well done. Keep doing it. Thanks very much for joining me. You can also find me in the podcast There Be Dragons, where I play the infamous and deadly pirate Scan Felspar und his little dragon Hrosh. I will be over on Ardana's channel on Friday night for more D&D. I will be back here on my channel on Thursday night for more D&D. Karen and I will be restarting our Mano a Mano 1v1 game. And on Sunday, I will be back on the Eldritch Scribe for more D&D, because I'm a slat for D&D. Yeah, all of those games are super fun. Nice. I also must mention Wooten Forge, our wonderful affiliates. Check out their amazing stuff at wootenforge.com/Corsairs Cove. Things like this beautiful Dice Keeper box made of Australian-grown Jarrah. Handcrafted wooden tabletop accessories. Check them out. And anything you purchase over there using that Corsairs Cove link, we get a cheeky little kickback. So it's a great way to support two awesome groups of people, maybe. Other than that, we need to talk about Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are having a bit of a shit time right now. The link in chat is to the emergency action appeal. If you do have any spare pennies, you would consider donating to them. This is to help people who have been displaced by the violence. Over 11 million Ukrainians have lost their homes so far, and that sucks. So that's to help them. If you can, God bless your souls. If not, also bless you. But yeah. Good on you guys. So, we're going to drop that raid over on AJ now. Let's go and find that. I might just run a quick ad, and then we will jump straight over there. So, thanks very much for hanging out with me, guys. Say goodbye, Josh. Bye, Josh!